After a tough loss in the opening week against the Commanders, my words to the Jaguar fans: don't panic. I'll tell you why in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Monday morning to you. This is Tony Wiggins here with Locked On Jaguars, the host of the Locked On Jaguars Daily Podcast, where it's your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. I'm sorry, y'all. They didn't win. The Jaguars lose 28-22, as you all know by this point. A heartbreaking game because of the missed opportunities, the very, very slow start, fast start that didn't amount to a lot of points, and then a slow start on defense as well. And quite naturally, today is my blood pressure. I got to take a blood pressure pill because everybody wants to say that Trevor Lawrence ain't it. It's much too early for all of that stuff. And in fact, that's not even a conclusion that I draw when I watched the game yesterday. My advice is just to not panic. We're going to discuss some of the things that we saw that were concerns coming into the season. I'm going to skip ahead. In segment 3, I'm going to give you a reason to be cautiously optimistic about this team, about Trevor, and about Doug Peterson as the coach. But before that, we're going to talk about some things that happened. A quick recap in segment number 1. Segment number 2, some of the things that really, really bothered me yesterday that are concerns that we had and concerns that really we need to have going forward as this team continues to develop their identity. And then we're going to try to bring it all together and show you why we can just relax, chill out a little bit. But I know everyone's disappointed in the game yesterday for a number of reasons. One of them is because of the euphoria that everyone had when the Jaguars roared back and took the lead after scoring 19 or 18 straight points. The Jaguars took the lead. Yeah, I mean, they were down at one point 14-3, I believe, and then they burned them way all the way back and took the lead, including leaving points on the board by going forward on fourth down, going for 2-point conversions later on, missing a field goal, and actually having missed opportunities earlier with a ball that Trevor Etienne should have caught, possibly with another pass. If Trevor puts it on the money, Etienne runs into the end zone. Another one where Trevor overthrew Travis Etienne. And the Zay Jones pass where Trevor probably could have thrown it a little bit better, but Zay also probably could have flattened his route out a little bit more. So there's a lot of things that we can really point to and get into that were the reasons why things didn't go the way Jaguar fans wanted them to go. And I think those things tend to add to the angst and the fans being so upset is because I had people in the first quarter and in the second quarter, the early part of the second quarter, tell me on social media, this is what I get for buying my season tickets. I wish I could cancel my tickets. Same old Jaguars. I didn't hear from them but about an hour and a half later when the Jaguars went in, came out in the half and started creating turnovers and scoring points and scoring touchdowns and went up 22-14. Not a peep from anybody. And I know fans are going to fan, and I understand. So we ain't going to sit here and give you a hard time about that stuff because that's what fans do. But it's also my job to point it out that there's just this tendency to overreact on everything. One of the things I said Friday about the Jags is when adversity happens, you have to believe that you're not the same team. Like you can't, as a team go, oh my God, here we go again. We're the same old bad news Jaguars, because they had ample opportunity to do that yesterday and they didn't. They actually did something. If we stop and just smell the leaves and look at it for what it was, they did some things that you've never seen this team do in recent history. That is, they went in and they made halftime adjustments. 2, they came out in the second half like saying, if we stop beating ourselves, they can't beat us. They took the lead. They established the run. They were mixing and matching. They turned the ball over on defense. A lot of good positives to come out of that scenario. And many times in sports, when you see teams make these rallies and do all of that turning around, they use and expend a lot of energy up, not only physically, but mentally. That puts them in a situation where sometimes they get the lead, sometimes they don't get the lead. It's too little, too late. They run out of time. Sometimes they get the lead and they use up so much energy getting the lead that now here comes the other team and the other team's going to hit you back. So you can overcome adversity and then have adversity come right back. And now you have to find a way to overcome it a second time. So some good things to point out from the team. The other good thing is Doug Peterson is aggressive, man. And I know a lot of people want to point to the points that he left on the board early. I had no problem with it. They just got to execute. I had no problem with him going for it. I had no problem with him saying, nope, we ain't kicking field goals. We're scoring touchdowns. I ain't got no problem with none of that stuff because that's actually what he actually did when he won a Super Bowl. So I did mention this yesterday on our postcast right after the game on our reaction. We sometimes react to somebody doing something, especially a coach, and what we don't really pay attention to is the fact that this is just who they are. This is in their DNA. So when it works, it looks good, but when it doesn't work, it looks bad. And those are some of the things that coaches can't turn on and turn off. If a guy is a real aggressive person all the time and it nets him a championship, then that's just who he is and that's just who he's going to be. I mean, Sean Payton was that way. Bill Belichick has been that way. And we have the right to criticize it on an individual basis. The thing is though, it's not going to change the fact that that's who that person is. So I'm happy with Doug Peterson. I'm not as I was never as giddy on this attitude that Trevor Lawrence was just this generational quarterback that didn't need coaching. And if you think about it, Trent Dilfer said last year that he had a lot of things that he needs to work on, and he got killed for it because people and fans have so much enthusiasm. They don't want anything. They don't want any water on those burning embers, man. They don't try to calm us down. Don't try to be rational. We just want to be happy with what and actually the disservice that was done to Trevor Lawrence last year, some of that stuff looks like it's going to still show up, and it's things that he needs to work beyond. So there are people trying to cancel him today, and I'm sitting here thinking like, that's the weirdest thing in the world to me because Josh Allen was terrible his first 2 years in Buffalo. And at this point in Patrick Mahomes' career, he had only had 2 starts. He had 1 start his rookie year and 1 start he started the first game of his second season. And there are a lot of quarterbacks when you look back at how their early success. Troy Aikman was one of them, who went 1-15 and got beaten up and almost lost his job to another quarterback. We don't live in a league and we don't live in a world where you just cancel people after what Trevor Lawrence has been through and not look at the good in what he did. You can just probably chalk some of those overthrows yesterday early in the game as having the jitters and trying to do too much and being too excited. All of those things are things that you can work on. At the end of the day, if you're saying in order for us to win, the guy who is probably your best player has to play better, that's a better situation than being in a situation where you lose. And in order for you to play better, a guy who is not very talented or is not your best player is someone that you're asking to play better. You got me? Asking a lesser talented player to do something that he probably will never be able to do in his life is not as good as asking your most talented player. And we look at it like an alarm. And I think sometimes we see these things backwards. So I'm going to talk more specifically about some things that really did trouble me about yesterday's game. Things that if we get out of our own feelings and get out of our own way, we'll realize that those things are very, very important. And the Jaguars could have won the game yesterday. I'm going to discuss all of that after I tell you guys about BriteCo.com. What is BriteCo? BriteCo is insurance for idiots like me when you lose your jewelry and your precious gems in the ocean like I did in Mexico. Yep, got in the water and lost the ring, and guess what? Didn't have insurance on it, had to pay all of that money to get it replaced, and that's what I did. But with BriteCo, you don't have to be that guy. It's the fastest, easiest, and cheapest way to cover your butt with the best jewelry insurance in the business. These guys at BriteCo are geniuses. They make buying insurance for your engagement ring, your watch, or whatever so friggin' easy that you can get covered in 2 minutes on your cell phone. You won't find a better deal on great coverage that's super affordable. It's Bright/Co. It's Bright-.co/locked on. I'm going to say it again for you. Bright-.co/locked on. For about $5 a month, you can get total comprehensive insurance and coverage, and it won't take you more than 2 minutes. BriteCo.com. You with me here on Locked On Jaguars, making us your first listen, and we appreciate you doing so every single day because it's your podcast and it's your team every day. The Jaguars fall 28-22 to Washington after storming back to take the lead late in the game, had an opportunity to score late, just had some things happen that cannot happen. Trevor Lawrence makes a throw at the end of the game he probably should not have tried to make. In fact, he shouldn't have tried to make it. And it's one of the reasons why everybody's saying that they need to go out and draft another guy already. That's just the way the Jaguar fans are sometimes. And it comes with the territory, and we understand that. I don't agree with it, but let's just go through some of the things that happened. Trevor started out a little bit anxious, as you've seen guys do in big games, probably wanting to do too much. He had to settle down a little bit, overthrew Travis Etienne. Some people think that he overthrew or misled a ball to Marvin Jones that also could have been a big gainer or a touchdown. Trevor almost got, horse collared on that play. I think that was another play where Ben Bartch got beat and the guy got in, and right as Trevor was releasing the ball, he had his shoulder pulled and grabbed. So he didn't get everything. I like the demonstration I just did on camera here. But he didn't get everything into that pass the way he normally would. Doesn't mean he would have completed it because he had been off a little bit early in the game. But the one that he threw, that he overthrew Travis Etienne was a real bad throw. Then Travis probably walks into the end zone. Another pass where Travis caught a seam pass down the middle, had Trevor put it in front of him, he probably would have had a chance to get to the end zone. However, I can understand why he didn't, because the safety was beaten down on that seam, and quarterbacks want to put the ball in a safe place so he doesn't also get his guy crushed over the middle. Trust me, Etienne took a lot of hits yesterday. But the pass to Zay Jones might have been a combination of him and Zay just not being in sync, and then the one Trevor dropped on fourth down should have been caught. I mean, it's an NFL pass. You got to catch that. It was a little bit high, but it was a very, very catchable pass. So a lot of people, want to beat Trevor up for all of that stuff when it really wasn't his fault. One thing he does, though, that I think he needs to get away from is when he decides to scramble. A lot of times he decides to scramble to his left. And when you're scrambling to your left, you have to really learn how to open out and contort your body to make a throw. That's a very difficult thing to do. So on the last play that the Jaguars had the ball, when he threw the ball that was intercepted, I think the ball might have been deflected, but he was running left on that play. The explanation I got from reading and listening to what Trevor Lawrence said after the game yesterday was that when he saw and they knew where they wanted to go to the ball. So at least shout out to him for understanding that he's going to get the ball to Christian Kirk, right? And I know some of y'all would be upset at that because that means you're predetermining where you're going to throw the ball, but you're also predetermining where you're going to throw the ball because he's the guy that you have labeled as your best player. So he says he saw it, but he had to get out because the pressure came again from the left side of the line. And then he tried to go ahead and make the throw anyway. Should have done it. They would have had a fourth down. They would have had another go at it. At that point, to me, they were in deep trouble because I know I've said several times that this new Jaguar regime, if they have a second and long or a first and long, they don't have a problem getting out of it. In the situation they were in yesterday, at the end of the game, when Washington is definitely in nickel and they're keeping everything in front of them, that's a worse situation for Walker Little to come in and get that penalty, that false start. So when you get that false start now, the next play, the Jaguars are trying to get a little bit back, and now it's still 3rd and 10, and it gets flushed out. I just don't think he wanted to be in a situation where it was 4th and 10, so he thought he had to make a play. Because at that point, Washington was sending extra people. They were blitzing. The left side was having a hard time. At that point, Walker Little was in the game, and they were probably going to be having some trouble over there too because he hadn't been in the game all day. So they were doomed a little bit, in that situation. Some other situations that are a little bit alarming, these penalties. Now, I know some of the best teams in the league and some of the most aggressive teams are penalized, but it's the type of penalties that they were getting. Jumping off sides on 2nd and 9, that was on Travon Walker. That was on, I think, the Fodo Fadukazi did that. The roughing the passer on Devon Hamilton when they had gotten the Commanders off the field on 3rd down. That was a killer because it gave them an automatic first down. They continued with the drive and they kept the ball. I don't know if they scored, but even if they didn't, they kept the ball away from the Jaguars at the time. It looked like the Jaguars were turning the corner and were doing some nice things offensively. They got to get rid of those. They got to clean that up. You got to clean those penalties up, man. You just can't have dumb stuff like that happen. Something else that's a little bit alarming. We had talked about how they changed the athletic profile of a lot of the guys on their defense and how they did not seem to sacrifice speed. Their linebackers on the second level, especially early, looked slow. They were getting a stinky leg put on them by the running backs as well as the receivers who were catching short passes in front of the sticks and being able to shake their way and get first downs. And I know Washington has a lot of jitterbugs like that, whether it's Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. They have, and of course, Antonio Gibson, and then J.D. McKissick. All of those guys are good guys, like catching the ball and making people miss. But at some point, 7 or 8 of them in a row, you got your team looking like they're getting Kyrie Irving on the field. At some point, guys got to make tackles because the Tampa defense, and the one thing that the defense that Mike Caldwell has run in the past, their guys, whether it be Devin White, Levante David, Winfield Jr., all of those guys in Tampa, one of the things they did, this is a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl against Kansas City's defense and Tyreek Hill and all of those guys, wherever you caught the ball is where you stopped. They hit you and they tackled well in the open field. That is something that the Jaguars have to improve. Another thing we saw yesterday that we talked about previously, at some point, were teams going to be able to run when they wanted to and when they had to, because the Jaguars don't have a lot of 300-pound depth on their defensive line. And you saw it yesterday on the game-winning drive. They went 95 yards, and they did a lot of throwing, but they also, once they got close to midfield, they ran the ball. And by running the ball, what they did was, not only are we going to go down here and score, but on the way to go down here and scoring, we're going to run the ball and take all the time off the clock so that you got to be desperate in order to do whatever it is you're going to do. DB's getting beat down the field by Jahan Dotson as well as Terry McLaurin. Cannot happen. You cannot let guys get behind you like that and give up those big chunk plays on defense. You just can't. You just can't. I'm going to talk about some silver linings, some things that we saw yesterday that will bode well for this team. And I know you guys aren't really going to want to miss that one. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars after I tell you guys about PrizePicks and PrizePicks.com. If you don't know, I played yesterday. I did not win because the 49ers and their running back didn't get enough yards, as well as Jones, the running back for Green Bay. So what it is you have daily fantasy entries that PrizePicks set with player projections about how many yards they're going to get, how many receptions, scores, touchdowns, and you have to decide whether they're going to do more or less. So you pick 2 or more entries, between 2 and 5 entries, and if you get them all right, you can win up to 10 times your money. You can do that at PrizePicks.com or download the PrizePicks app. Make sure you sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, you will get $50 put into your promo account so you can play. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. We thank you for joining us here again on Locked On Jaguars, making us your first listen, because it's your team every single day. And we thank you for joining us. I want to talk to you about the Peacock and Williamson podcast, man. These are my guys, man. Peacock and Williamson, you make them your second listen every single day. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure you check that out as well. bright spots and things looking forward that you can appreciate. Just like they adjusted at halftime, I believe the Jaguars will make the proper adjustments and clean some stuff up and get better as a team. I think they're going to compete and be competitive in every single game that they play. And that's because I just think that's the way they're yoked, and they have enough playmakers on both sides of the ball to do it. Your number one draft pick, Travon Walker, is as good as advertised. He is the truth. I thought he got a little winded yesterday, but he'll learn and he'll move forward and he'll get better. But he's going to be a guy who is a big play waiting to happen, and he's going to do it in more than one fashion. So he's already living up to being the number one overall pick. Your high priority free agent, Christian Kirk, 6 catches yesterday for 113 yards. He did his job. He could probably even get more and could have had a bigger day had they protected a little bit better and a couple of balls not been batted down. But he shows that big playability to be able to get down the field, and that's something the Jaguars have not had in a long time. James Robinson is still one of the 5 best players on this football team, and he looks like he's healthy, and he does not have any ramifications or anything lingering from the Achilles tendon that he tore last year. Travis Etienne is explosive and is going to be a good second option at running back, and a guy who's going to give you, he's not just going to come in and just hold the fort down. He's going to give you a little bit extra. He got hit real hard yesterday and bounced back, and then made a nice run down the sideline later on, and then caught a couple of nice passes too. So I look forward to those guys being a two-headed monster at running back. Tyson Campbell got an interception, and it appears that this entire defense is going to be opportunistic when it comes to Andre Cisco got a pick. They're going to be very opportunistic when it comes to being able to turn the ball over and create stuff, because they're athletic and they hit hard. So looking forward to that. I thought Cam Robinson held up pretty good at left tackle yesterday, and Juwan Taylor, before he got those cramps, looked good. Brandon Scherf, I believe, looked really, really good at right guard. So the Jaguars are going to be able to run the ball. The key is, can they shore up just those one or two areas, and especially do a better job in blitz pickups, so that Trevor doesn't have to run for his life. Trevor has to, like I said, know when to run, know when to throw the ball away, know when the play is over, and not get so caught up into trying to play hero ball. And I think they will be fine. I want them to run a little bit better on their second level, and I want them to be able to stop the run a little bit, and I want them to get more pressure. I thought they had some situations yesterday where they did get pressure. One of them was a dagger. That's when Devon Hamilton basically had Carson Wentz dead beat on a sack that would have maybe had like a 7 or 8 yard loss. Instead, Wentz sidesteps him and they convert on third down. Those things are a killer. So when you get penalties on third down, when you miss open sacks, when you don't tackle well in the open field, especially on third down, and allow the team to get extra yards, when you drop balls, overthrow players, doink a field goal, go for try to score a touchdown instead of taking points in the red zone, and you're still this close to winning the game. That means that there's a lot of positives as a football team and things that you can look forward to. So those are some of the things to watch moving forward. Are they going to be able to fix some of the warts that you saw yesterday? I think it seems like there's a lot of them, but they're all small things, right? I think the biggest thing that's a problem is the offensive line on that left side, and maybe running to the ball and having the speed at linebacker and being able to tackle in open field. Those are the things to me that you can fix. Penalties, I don't know if you're going to be able to fix that, because it's not like you can go out here and get you a left guard who's just walking around here who's going to be able to come in and help your team, right? It's not like that. And if you guys can't run on the second level and you don't have the depth in order to be able to put other guys into the game that can run at the second level, and if guys can't tackle in the open field, there's really nothing you can do about that unless you're just going to replace them come next season. But they have to try to get better during the season at those things. I think Doug Peterson, I'm not going to second guess him, because this team doesn't have an identity yet, and they're trying to establish one. I think the word of the day, like I said at first, is just relax and let's see what they have moving forward, and we'll see how they improve next week. We'll talk about this week's matchup coming up. I'm going to practice today. I'm going to listen to the press conference, so I have some information based on some of the things that Doug Peterson says today and how they view their the performance yesterday after taking 24 hours to decompress. And I have all of that for you. You guys make sure you take care of each other. Just relax, man. Don't try to replace Trevor in the draft and all of that stuff as of yet, because there's a lot of football to be played. Don't put yourself through those mental gymnastics. You don't need to do that right now. They're 0-1, man, but let's see if we can get it together for next week, and we'll talk more about that matchup tomorrow here on Locked On Jaguars. Until then, you guys take care and take care of each other.